Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to World of Wildlife for April 2026. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday, Easter, or celebration in whatever way you celebrate. Looking forward to sharing some information with you about what I've been doing for this month, some information about what's been going on at the Sun Bear Conservation Centre in Malaysia, and also then passing over to Nikki, who is the operations manager at the Wildlife HQ on the Sunshine Coast. So she's going to talk to us all about the role of zoos in conservation. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm the co-host of this monthly gathering of wildlife people around the world. I'm co-host this with Dr. Wong, who is the founder and director of the Bornean Sun Bear Conservation Centre. You'll notice that I've got some books up on the screen, and those books are all books that I've written, the majority of them all focusing on the life of Dr. Wong. So the first one, the black one, is his biography, which I wrote as part of my Doctor of Creative Arts degree, in which I focused on how narratives can engage non-scientists in conservation. That was followed by 6 children's books about Wong's adventures with different species in the middle of the Bornean jungle. One of those, the yellow one, Wildlife Wong, the Sumatran rhino, was illustrated by my friend Wen Bing, who's here today and comes to most of our gatherings as well. The last book that you can see there is called Curious Kai Asks Why. That one is bringing all these concepts back home to Australia where I live. So in this one, Curious Kai is a 10-year-old girl with endless questions about wildlife. She goes in search of the scientists, the real scientists, who can answer her questions and help her save the world. So off she goes to answer crazy questions like, do songbirds have accents? Are bats rats with wings or birds with fur? Or are cassowaries good dads? Okay, so she traveled around Queensland with those crazy questions. Hopefully this is the first in a series, and the next one, well, Curious Kai will be traveling around New South Wales, meeting a new 8 or so species in Australia. So what have I been up to in the last month since we met last time? The main thing I've been doing, I'm just going to focus on one thing, because I've been working on an incredible workshop that I've had in my repertoire of workshops that I do in schools. I've been working on developing it for my local Sunshine Coast Council. They've asked me to develop this workshop for a local audience. So the Parliament of Animals is a one-day workshop which is suitable for years 5 and up, and it's suitable for school leaver groups or school leader groups. So we ran a pilot of this program 2 weeks ago at Budger Mountain State School, and it went exceedingly well. So I want to tell you a little bit about this one. You're basically getting a bit of a spoiler alert, because this project will be launched in the next few months. It will be open source for all teachers on the Sunshine Coast to have access to this program, and the ability to have me come and deliver it if you'd like to. So the Parliament of Animals is broken into 5 acts. Each act is 1 hour long. The first act, the students learn all about environment and civics. So basically how these two work together. They learn concepts like biodiversity and habitat and all those sort of things, but they also learn a little bit about how decision making works at local government level. I pretend to be the acting mayor of the Sunshine Coast, and there's a proposal to build a monorail system throughout the Sunshine Coast, which will cut through all the major habitats on the coast. So I, as the acting mayor, ask the participants if they will learn all about the animals and the habitats in our area, so that they can actually attend a meeting or a parliament and give their perspectives at that parliament. Okay, that'll help me then as the acting mayor decide whether to support this development. So they learn that in Act 1. In Act 2, they are given a character to research, and they spend most of their hour doing that. Some of the characters are human and some of the characters are non-human. So we've got some crazy critters on the Sunshine Coast that are endangered. Things like land mullets, which are a type of skink, or a giant glider, or a pink underwing moth. some really cool ones. So they learn all about these by researching those and answering questions on a spreadsheet or a worksheet that they use in their groups. The third hour, they become that animal. So we spend time doing drama activities to work on sound, movement, voice, and then we spend time creating a costume for one of their team members to wear. You can see that there we've got some in the background. We've got some kids trying to become a grey-headed flying fox. And we've got a farmer who's all dressed up. We've also got a greater glider dressed up in those pictures too. So it's kind of a fun element. Once they've dressed up, the fourth act is going to Parliament. So they actually we get in a parliamentary sort of a format, and each of those characters gets a chance to put their perspective forward on whether this development should take place. There's some of our amazing costumes that we had at the pilot, which was really, really fun. Once they've done that, they've now used all their research, and they've used their knowledge now of citizenship and habitat to give their perspectives. The fourth section, they vote. They actually go into a voting booth, or in this case, they were voting in a nice big line. They vote with a ballot sheet on whether or not they would support this development. After that, we finalise by talking about some of the incredible things that make Australian democracy different than anyone else in the world, with our compulsory voting and our preferential voting system. And we explain what that means and why that makes us a very strong democracy. So that's sort of how that works. It's very, very exciting. I'm so honoured that the Sunshine Coast Council has asked me to do this and to make it suitable for a local audience. I'm hoping that all schools in our region will actually pick up the opportunity to do this, with or without me actually facilitating. They can do it on their own as well. So I'll keep you posted on when that's live so that schools can actually access. All right, so that's me. But now I'm going to put my Wong hat on, and I'm going to pretend to be Wong because it's early in the morning for him. And this is Wong, the founder of the Bornean Sun Bear Conservation Centre. Now, we've got a couple of things that I'd like to share with you about what's been going on with Wong. Wen Bing just told me we've had the third rescued sun bear this year. Now, that's a really sad thing, because the majority of sun bears that get rescued in Borneo means that their mothers have been killed or poached, and the sun bears are left on their own. Once a sun bear cub has been identified, the Sabah Wildlife Department will send it to Wong at the Bornean Sun Bear Conservation Centre, and he then raises these bears, tries to teach them the skills that they need to be free, and eventually, if they're suitable, they get freed back into the wild. So it's a unique facility in Sepalok in Malaysia. If anyone watching hasn't been, then definitely please do go and support Wong, especially in these times when tourism is flagging from a global political situation. So this is Manja, one of those rescued sun bears that was rescued in the last month or so. Absolutely gorgeous creature who came to the centre close to death, really malnourished, really not doing well. So I've got some updates, and I'll tell you a little bit about most of the people here know a lot about sun bears. For those of you watching, you might not. So here is Manja. This is taken this week. You can see that she's getting a lot more energy than she had before. She's a lot more inquisitive than she was before. Gorgeous, gorgeous little creature. She's interacting there with her carer, and I wanted to show you this video because you can see how actually small she is. She's a tiny bear. So a bear cub of this age will stay with their mum for about 2 years in the wild, and obviously when their mum's been killed, that's a serious problem for their survival. Here we are with Manja eating. So when she's eating at the Sun Bear Centre, she's now moved from just milk to having some fruit. She's not quite sure about fruit just yet, but she's getting into her fruit just a little bit. So the food that the sun bears at the Sun Bear Centre are fed first starts with when they're this age with a milk formula, and the formula has taken Wong and the team quite some time to get right, making sure what sort of what she needs as far as her nutrients added to that formula. When they grow up enough, they get a rice porridge, and that rice porridge supplements are added to that rice porridge every day for each individual animal to make sure that they're healthy. They're also supplemented with things like this fruit, and they're supplemented with fruit in the rainforest pens as well, where they forage for their fruit, which is a form of enrichment. Once or twice a week, they're throwing coconuts over the fence, and they actually rip those apart pretty incredibly. Here's Munja actually with her formula, which is fed in this tray. This is the same tray that her rice porridge will be fed in as she gets older, so she's used to that sort of a process. All right, here she is getting a bit more inquisitive. She's got a thing for boots, I think.
Have this pointy muzzle.
You can see that she's also got, if you look at her paws, you can see her big claws. Now, the big claws on a sun bear, the claws are actually attached to the bones in her body, so they make them super strong. And when a sun bear is old enough, they can climb up to about 50 meters up a tree, basically walking up like Spider-Man. It's quite impressive. I think she's trying to do that up a leg right now, but not having much luck. You can see also when you look at her paws that her paws are at a slight angle. They're not at 90 degrees. They're a little bit more than 90 degrees, which makes it easier for climbing. We're going to move on to our amazing guest speaker today. Our guest speaker is Nikki from Wildlife Operations Manager at Wildlife HQ Zoo. Now, this is a very small zoo on the Sunshine Coast. It's an absolute incredible zoo where I believe, well, it's my favorite zoo, but it's my favorite zoo because it's a very personal zoo. It's a zoo that's a small footprint, but all the people that work there are incredibly dedicated and very good at sharing their knowledge. So I absolutely adore this place. So Nikki, we would like to know a little bit about what role zoos play in wildlife conservation, and how is Wildlife HQ Zoo inspiring real-time action for the natural world? So I'm sure you've got lots of answers to that. So I'm going to pass over to Nikki. Thank you so much for being here, and being here early in the morning too.
Thank you for having me. I'll share my screen. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, depending on where you are and what time you're watching this. My name is Nikki, and I am the Wildlife Operations Manager at Wildlife HQ in a little park in Queensland, Australia. So Wildlife HQ is home to a range of native and exotic species, and we operate as an accredited zoo, which means we follow recognised standards for animal welfare, conservation and education. And my role involves overseeing our animal collection, supporting the keeper team, and ensuring that we are delivering high standards of care while also contributing to conservation outcomes. One example from our zoo is our beautiful sun bear, Marley. Marley is the offspring of two bears that were rescued in Cambodia. So her story is directly connected to wildlife rescue, rehab, and conservation work. It's actually her 18th birthday this weekend, and we're throwing a party. We do it every year, and it's a huge day for sun bears in our little network in the Sunshine Coast anyway. At Wildlife HQ, sun bears are a big focus for us, and Marley helps educate our visitors about issues like wildlife trafficking, bile trade, habitat loss, and the importance of conservation programs. So today I'm going to talk about how zoos contribute to conservation, not just in theory, but in practical, real-world ways that happen every day. Oh, that's me.
There you
are. So what role do zoos actually play? For a long time, zoos were primarily seen as places where animals were displayed, mostly just for entertainment. but modern zoos have evolved significantly. Today, zoos are part of global conservation efforts. They work directly with animals, but also they work directly with people, and both of these things are essential. Zoos contribute through animal care, conservation breeding and research, education, public engagement, and partnerships with other organisations across the world. And what makes zoos unique is they sit between wildlife and people. They are one of the few places where large numbers of people can connect with animals in a meaningful way. And that puts them in a powerful position to influence conservation outcomes. To understand why zoos matter, we need to understand the scale of the problem. We are currently facing a global biodiversity crisis. Millions of species are at risk of extinction. And this is not something that's just happening in one place, it's happening globally. And the main drivers are habitat loss as land is being cleared or changed, climate change, which are altering the ecosystems, and human impact, including hunting, poaching, pollution, and development. These pressures are increasing and many species can simply just not adapt fast enough. So conservation is no longer something that is optional, it's essential. And it requires multiple approaches, including the work that zoos do. Excuse my AI generated images, I didn't have heaps of time. Zoos are not working alone. Across the world, zoos and aquariums are involved in hundreds of conservation programs for threatened species. These programs involve collaborations between zoos, governments, researchers, and conservation organisations. They also connect millions of people with wildlife every year. And that reach is incredibly important because conservation is not just about protecting animals, it's about influencing people. If people don't understand the issues, they're less likely to act, and zoos help bridge that gap. They take conservation from something that is distant and make it something that people can see and understand and hopefully relate to. One of the most recognised roles of zoos is conservation breeding. It's really important to understand that this is not just random breeding. It's carefully planned and managed through species coordinators and a stud book program. The goal is to maintain healthy populations of species under human care, and these are often referred to as insurance populations for those critically endangered animals or endangered animals. That means that if populations of wild animals decline significantly in the wild, there are still managed populations that contribute to the species survival in zoos. A strong example of this in Australia is the Tasmanian devil. Tasmanian devils have been severely impacted by a disease called a facial tumour disease. It significantly reduced wild populations, but through zoo-based breeding programs, they have played an important role in ensuring the species survives while conservation work continues in the wild through breeding programs, education, and even some funding through some of the bigger zoos. So this is a clear example of zoos contributing directly to conservation outcomes. These programs are based on genetics, and animals are paired carefully to maintain diversity and avoid inbreeding as much as possible. There's also long-term planning involved, sometimes looking years ahead. There could be 2-year plans, 5-year plans, 10-year plans for breeding. And this work is coordinated across multiple institutions globally, not just one zoo making all the decisions. It's a coordinated effort. And every animal plays a role in a much larger plan. Importantly, it's not every animal is bred for lease. Instead, each animal contributes to the long-term health and stability of the species, whether it be an ambassador animal in zoos or directly for a breed for a release program. Zoos also play a major role in animal welfare. As zookeepers, it's our job to provide lifelong care for animals that cannot survive in the wild. And this might include animals that were injured, orphaned, or have become too used to humans or problematic to humans. Releasing those animals is probably not safe or may not be appropriate. So zoos ensure they have a high quality of care. At Wildlife HQ, this is something we focus on every day. For example, with Marley, our sun bear, lots of effort goes into her enrichment. We, as bear keepers, understand how important it is to provide enriching environments for these highly intelligent animals. So it means providing her with activities and environments that stimulate their natural behaviors. We also monitor her health, her behavior, and her well-being extremely closely. And modern zoos focus both on physical and mental well-being because an animal needs both to truly thrive. This level of care also builds knowledge and supports conservation more broadly. Because we work so closely with these animals, we are able to pick up on things that maybe you wouldn't be able to in the wild without close research. Okay, why connection matters. Seeing one of the most important things that zoos do are create connection. Seeing animals in real life builds a connection that is very different just from seeing them online or in a documentary. It becomes personal. It makes you feel something inside. And that connection is powerful because connection drives care and care drives conservation action. When people see animals like Marley, hear her story, it creates an emotional response. People cry, they fall in love, and they just want to protect. And that's what makes conservation so meaningful. I included this photo because this is me, my nephew, and my son. My son is a huge reptile nerd. He loves reptiles, always has since he was a tiny baby. My nephew is terrified of them, absolutely terrified of them, and he doesn't have a healthy respect for reptiles because he has such a fear. So my son took him into an enclosure with some lizards and sat him down and explained why each and every individual was so important, to the point where he wanted to come back the very next weekend with his little kiwi that he had from school. His project for the weekend was to take a kiwi out and show him a good time for the weekend and back on Monday. So his presentation to the class was about how important reptiles and how cool they are. So that connection changed his whole mindset to the point where he wanted to go and tell his friends about it at school. So it's just a small example of why connection does matter so much. Zoos also play a major role in education. Visitors leave with a better understanding of biodiversity and the challenges that wildlife face. But more importantly, they leave with a stronger sense of responsibility. And that can lead to behavior change. Because conservation ultimately depends on people making better decisions, zoos help influence those decisions. They turn awareness into understanding and understanding into action. Some people say animals should only be seen in the wild, and ideally that would be amazing if that was the case. But wildlife tourism can also create challenges. It can disturb animals, cause stress, damage habitats, and sometimes encourage really unsafe, unethical interactions. Zoos can provide a controlled, ethical alternative. They allow people to to connect with animals in a controlled environment with wildlife without impacting any wild populations. And they make that experience accessible to many more people as well. Zoos also turn awareness into action. They promote simple, practical things that people can do. This is a photo of a sign that I took, I think, at Melbourne Zoo. This is just one of the campaigns, the many campaigns that zoos in Australia do. So saving koalas one flush at a time. Wipe for wildlife. So this is trying to get people to pledge to using recycled toilet paper. Just a small action that people can do, but making it very simple so people can walk away and go, yeah, that's easy, I can do that. And that's contributing to conservation. Some other examples are recycling mobile phones, choosing sustainable palm oil. We are big at that at our Sun Bear talk. These actions might seem small, but when many people take them, it creates a real impact, and zoos help make conservation something that people can actually be part of. It's not all doom and gloom. Small changes that people can make. People learn when visiting a zoo. Conservation messaging is built into the entire zoo experience. Signage and interpretation play a big role. Every exhibit tells a story. It explains where the species live, what threats it faces, and what people can do. So even if visitors don't attend a talk, they don't do an animal encounter, they still have that opportunity to learn through signage. And that repetition really does help reinforce that message. This is a red panda sign that I loved at Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary. I thought it was great interp. Zoos also contribute to a conservation beyond their own sites as well. So ZAR, the Zoo and Aquarium Association, and IUCN have paired up to create a program that follows a assess, plan and act approach. And this involves collaborations between zoos, governments, researchers and other conservation organisations. Examples of these programs include species such as Tasmanian devils, the kiwi over in New Zealand, cassowaries, and many more species. The goal is long-term recovery and sustainable populations. I think it's also very important to recognise that not all zoos are the same. Some facilities do not meet those modern standards. So it's very important to choose accredited zoos when you do visit a zoo across the world. Accreditation ensures high standards of welfare, conservation and ethics, and where people choose to visit really does matter. It's important to do your research before visiting zoos across the world. There are many accreditation bodies around the world that set these standards. They help ensure that zoos are operating responsibly and also contributing to conservation in some way. This helps maintain trust and supports positive outcomes. So in Australia, we have the Zoo and Aquarium Association, and they manage the Australasia region, and they're also under the WASA umbrella, so World Association of Zoos and Aquariums. I know there's one in Europe and also in America, and I'm sure there's many more across the globe. So when we ask how do zoos help conservation, they do it through breeding programs, animal care, education, campaigns, partnerships, but most importantly, connection, because connection drives protection and zoos help people care. And when people care, conservation happens. Thank you.
Well done. Fantastic work. Excellent. I've
Thank
got
you.
lots of
Sorry.
questions for you, Nikki. So you take it, have a cup of tea, have a drink, whatever. That was fantastic. Well done. I'm sure that Alexander and Wombin have some too, but shall I start with one and then I'll pass over? Does that sound good?
Yep,
Um,
sounds good.
what my first one is about Marley because I've known Marley for a long time as well, not quite as long as you have, but I know that at some point there was a discussion about the possibility of having a mate for Marley, a mate as in either a sexual mate or just a mate as a friend. And I know when the enclosure was built, Wong actually came over and talked about that enclosure a little bit with Jared, and it was built potentially large enough for a second bear, I think. Is anything happening in that space?
It's a discussion that comes up every year with the Sunbear Stud Book over in Perth.
Yeah,
There hasn't been much breeding success in Australia since Marley. We've got Mary down in Taronga Zoo,
yeah.
but unfortunately two females, so that doesn't help us. Um,
It doesn't help with the breeding, but maybe with the mateship, because
yeah,
Mr. Hobbs died, right? But
yeah,
you would, but then it would be which zoo gets the two bears.
exactly. Everybody wants their bear. Um, We have always said that if we were to acquire a male or another sun bear, that we would build a bigger or
Big one.
potentially a separate enclosure,
Mm,
and that, Marley is content in there on her own being a solitary species as well. So
yeah,
we do have many primate species across the zoo that are social, and we're very big on just, reassuring people that Marley,
yeah,
although, they can live together quite happily, she is okay because she is solitary, but she is a solitary species and has always been a
yeah.
solitary species since leaving her mum and dad over in Perth. Um,
Yeah, I think that's a really important point for people to know, isn't it? Because sun bears do not hang out in family groups in the wild. And so she's not actually, it's not a detriment necessarily that she's on her own.
No, absolutely not. And
Mm.
there have been some observations made that when two sun bears are together in a smaller exhibit in a zoo as well, that they can actually not appreciate each other.
Yeah,
We all get like that a little
we've
bit
seen
every
that at
now and then, even the
BSBCC,
social species.
absolutely.
So yeah, it's hard because if we were to acquire another one, would she even want that?
Mm,
We
mm,
don't see any
yeah,
stress behaviors from her that she's lonely or anything like that. She is quite content with her
yeah,
own company. And if we
that's
were to
good.
introduce another bear, would she be like, what is this?
Yeah, yeah. What have
Um,
you done to me? But might be
exactly.
the same as if I bring another dog into my household.
Exactly, exactly. But we are, we're massive Sun Bear fans. We would absolutely love to have another one. However, the logistics of it in Australia at the moment are
Yeah,
just looking a bit grim, unfortunately.
yeah,
We've got
interesting.
aging bears over in Perth Zoo.
Mm,
Marley's parents aren't young anymore.
yeah.
Um, Mary's by herself at Taronga, and then we've got the two bears down in National Zoo and Aquarium
Mhm.
that have each other. So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
would need to look at importing from abroad, and that
yeah,
has its
yeah.
challenges
So
with
that would
disease
probably be,
and
if that happened, it would be working with Free the Bears in Cambodia again, potentially.
potentially, but I
Mm,
believe,
yeah,
and I'm not across this by any means, but I
yeah,
believe
yeah,
that there are political issues with
mm,
that,
yeah.
and disease issues as well. So
Absolutely.
it's
We've got
it's
serious
not simple. Yeah,
biosecurity in this country.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we're very lucky to have, but
Mm,
yes, it's not as easy as let's just get another bear from overseas.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's much
Well,
harder.
thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering how that was going. I've got one more for you, and then maybe one Bing's got one. Um, are all the separate species on a breeding monitoring program throughout the country? I know that there's a sun bear stud sort of a
Mhm.
process. Is there? Do you have that with all your species?
Um, Mostly, yes.
Yeah.
It's not down to, the bearded dragon or the blue tongue lizard. Like
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
species are not, because they're a common species across zoos. Those types of animals, and we will work collectively with other facilities as well to freshen up gene pools and whatnot, but they're not managed down to a stud book like your red
Okay.
panda or your sun bear would be.
Yeah.
There are some that are more closely monitored, and then there are others that they will be one day, but at this point in time, like meerkats,
Yeah.
we will liaise with other zoos to try and make sure that we are doing the right thing with breeding and creating and recording it all through our ZIMS 360 program so that you can
Mm.
see their genetics. But there's no report done on them as such. There's still a
Okay.
stud book and they'll still keep an eye on it, but it's not down to the nitty gritty. They all have different levels of
Yeah.
stud booking. Yeah,
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you.
that's okay.
Wenbing, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thanks for the sharing, Nikki.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
I have a question about like when you're like, because it's like conservation when you breed captive breeding, and then after that to help with the wild population,
Hmm.
like how does a zoo help to prepare the animal if they're going to release it? Since like growing up in a zoo and growing up in a wild would be a quite different. I suppose it's quite a different experience
Yes,
for the animal.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The animals that are bred for release are certainly not on display to the public. They are set up in a off display different area. Um,
Mm.
so, for example, we have Aussie Ark down in New South Wales. They have their main part of the zoo, which is Australian Reptile Park, and then they have a conservation area called Aussie Ark where they have breeding for release set up. So it's kind of like a huge fenced off habitat, I suppose, where they'll have quolls and Tasmanian devils and I'm not sure what other species they have, but potentially potoroos and other little native Australian animals that they will breed and then set them up for, I suppose, a soft release where it's very hands off. You don't humanize those animals whatsoever, and you assess them as being fit for release to the wild. So it's very different. We also have quolls at Sydney Zoo that are being bred. They're not interacted with by any means. There's very strict guidelines when it comes to those animals that are
Good.
not ambassador animals for the zoos. Yeah, it's different programs.
I noticed the same when I was at the new Koala Conservation Centre in Port Macquarie. I think you call it Gulaba, but I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correct because they've got a place that's that's open to the public, but then they've actually set up multiple pens for breeding that are in the rainforest, set well back from any interaction, which is fabulous.
Yeah, you have your ambassador animals that are there to create a connection with those people, and then you have your other animals off display away from the public and very hands-off approach.
Mm, mm. Yeah, good question.
Thank you.
Have you got another one?
Let me think about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alexander, anything that you'd like to know?
Um, I don't have any questions off the top of my head, but I will just add thanks for the great presentation, Nikki. I actually used to volunteer at Wildlife HQ back in 2016, so 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. It's
So
changed a lot
yeah,
since then.
and also I kind of becoming back and forth since then, but mainly 2016 was when I was mostly volunteering.
Yeah,
You
So
were still a teenager then, weren't you?
I was 18, so yes, I was a teenager. Um, so yeah, so it was interesting to hear about Wildlife HQ and what's going on there now.
Mm.
Yeah, I've certainly over the past 10 years, I've enjoyed going and seeing the zoo develop and seeing new animals come. Um, so yeah,
It has.
thanks
It's
for
grown. It's grown so well because,
it really
um,
has, yeah.
especially since it came from such a difficult beginning, right? When
Hmm.
Alma Park Zoo closed down, and yeah, are you able to share that story a little bit, Nikki?
Yeah, of course. So I joined in 2018. So
Mm,
it was before my time that you were there,
mm.
Alexander. But yeah, so gosh, must have been 11, nearly 12 years ago now. Alma Park Zoo in Brisbane was a an attraction that had been there for a very long time. And the owner at the time sold the land for housing development. So generally when a zoo closes down, the animals just get dispersed to wherever you can, and sometimes if there's no home for them, um, the fate of those animals is unknown. So the zookeeper Jared at the time was like, no, I'm not going to let that happen. He now owns the zoo, and he has done an amazing job at developing it into what it is today. But at that time, he was just a keeper. He looked after Marley.
And he
And
was also very young back then
he
too.
was a baby.
It
Yeah,
was such a huge undertaking for him. I'm just taking my hat off to him so much for doing what he did, and
yeah.
what all the keepers did, because it was very much a collaborative sort of democratic process, wasn't it?
Yes, yep. Everyone band together, and it was
Yeah.
definitely they didn't know how it was going to go, but
Mm.
the Big Pineapple back in the day used to have an animal park there. So they were lucky enough that it was this rundown vacant land that was
Yeah.
ready to move into. The Big Pineapple was actually closed at the time. But there were still some koala enclosures and a few goat pens and random things around the place. So it had potential to tidy it up and turn it into a little park. And um, it was very touch and go for the first 5 years or so. Financially, zoos struggle at times, and it was this very unknown little hidden treasure on the Sunshine Coast that still to this day many people don't know that we exist.
Yes.
And Jared just did everything that he could. The keepers would work without pay. He used his car to go out and cut leaf for the koalas that they had, and they just all banded together to just get it through, I suppose. And now we're at the point where we're able to upgrade the facility significantly, and yeah, be proud to be
Yes.
an accredited
Brilliant.
zoo in the region. Yeah,
And that culture is what I love the most about the zoo is it's not this big sort of corporate culture. It's a very much a personalized experience.
absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what makes Wildlife HQ great is that we aren't too big.
Mm.
We've put in the hard yards on the ground, and Jared still to this day, even as the zoo owner, will cut koala leaf every morning for the koalas, and is very passionate about being on the ground and being amongst it, and not just sitting at his desk answering emails and paying bills. Which, yeah, it definitely is a domino effect across the team, knowing that the zoo owner is that passionate about the animals in
Yeah.
our care. Yeah.
So that's our plug for Wildlife HQ,
Yeah.
isn't it,
Come
really?
visit.
You've got to go if you're anywhere close on the
Yeah.
Sunshine Coast. We've got other big zoos close by, and you can do an entire holiday based on zoos if you want to.
Yes, that's generally how ours go.
I've got one more question for
Yep.
you that I'm wondering about this idea of education and paying it forward, basically getting all these kids involved in wildlife conservation. Do you have a young zookeeper or a young wildlife group in the zoo?
We trialed it last holiday. So
Yeah,
our staff, we have a team of, I think, 21 in total.
yeah,
So that
yeah,
includes our admin, our grounds, me and Jared as management, and
yeah, yeah.
and the keepers. So it's been something that we've been wanting to do for a very long time, is try and establish a better education program across the zoo. So last school holidays, we did trial a zookeeper for a day program.
Okay.
It went quite well.
Yeah.
They got to get amongst cleaning the koalas and learning about the native species. I think they cleaned the meerkat exhibits and things like that. We have decided to park it for now and review it because yes, we know how we can do it practically through the day and integrate it into the day, but we want to fine tune the education and conservation aspect of it.
Good.
We do
That's
go,
good. And then obviously the marketing is another huge part of it, right?
Yeah, we don't have a marketing team. It's just us. But we do go to daycare centres and schools and do talks with some of the animals that we're allowed to take off site and that are conditioned for it. And obviously our animal encounter program is quite big as well. So we try and allow people to do a fair amount of animal encounters by conditioning those animals. We just started bilby encounters these school holidays.
Fabulous.
They're an endangered species. So really allowing people to connect is kind of what we do.
Fabulous. Oh, well, I'm really hoping you get that going, and anything I can do to help.
I will definitely.
We might even be able to, railroad Alexander into next time he's home. Hey.
Yes, absolutely. No, I would love to pick your brain.
Are you in for that, Alexander?
Yes, that sounds good.
Definitely. Oh, it's been wonderful, Nikki. Thank you. Do we have any other questions from Wenbin or Alexander? What else is brewing?
Yeah, and I was going to ask also, like, how do people like get involved and like work in zoos and all that?
How do they get a job as a zookeeper?
Something like that.
Yeah, yep. Everybody's story is very different, I think. But I think mostly showing the commitment to zookeeping will get you a position. It's not a high-paying job, so it's very much done out of love, and you have to be grateful for the opportunity to be able to work with those animals in such a close space and be passionate about educating people, because that's essentially the core of why we do what we do. Yes, the animal side is great and caring for those animals is great, but without the conservation aspect, you can't really be a zookeeper well. You need to be able to educate and inspire people every day. So if you tick both those boxes and you show that you've got what it takes, mostly through volunteering, I think 95% of our staff have been hired from our volunteer program. And that's just from going, oh my gosh, she's great chatting to people. She has great observation skills, not so much she's done a uni degree in animal science or whatnot. It really is about the connection with people and the animals. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So you don't necessarily need to go to uni.
I don't think so. No. I mean, it's great to have that science background, definitely, but I think it's more important that you've got people skills and animal skills at the same time. Yeah.
Any other ones from you, Alexander?
I'm not sure if you're allowed to share this, but I was just wondering, do you what are there any new animals coming into Wildlife HQ? Like, do you have any plans to bring in some new animals?
For us, it really depends on what becomes available and needs a home in the region. We have always been pretty good at going, oh yeah, that animal needs a home. Let's create a habitat for it and make a plan super quick. We're lucky that we are small enough that we don't have boards of directors and red tape so much to get through. If we want something and we see a need for it and it can contribute to the zoo in a good way, we can make it happen quite quickly. And Jared's very talented at doing that.
Mhm.
So we're lucky to be led by him in that space. At this moment in time, I don't think we have any plans to introduce any new species. We are spending a lot of time upgrading the enclosures that we already have. A lot of the enclosures did come from the original Alma Park Zoo, so it's got to a point where we know and have acknowledged that they do need some maintenance and upgrades. So the focus for the time being is to make some improvements around those, but never say never. We do have some opportunities to potentially expand into the Africa space, but
Oh,
Ooh.
okay. Is that your wish list would be Africa, would it?
Yeah, some potentially carnivorous animals.
Oh, well, you've got the
Ooh.
painted
We'll see.
the painted dogs, haven't you? Or
We do, yes, we've got
Yeah.
the beautiful painted dogs.
They are so exquisite, aren't they?
Yes.
They're just,
Yeah,
oh my
they're
goodness,
one of my
what beautiful
favorites.
species.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
see what
see.
happens.
Yeah, I don't want to count chickens before they hatch.
No,
but,
no.
yes, no, we're always planning and willing to take on new species if there's a need for it. Yeah.
Great.
Oh, well, thank you, Nikki, so much for sharing your knowledge and this whole concept that zoos have changed, right? They're not just places for people to see a species. They're places to get involved. They're places where where zoos are actually playing a very important role in conservation now, which is a real big thing. For those of us that are in conservation, that in one way or another, who we can embrace the idea of a zoo if a zoo is the right kind of zoo.
Yes,
I think
it's
that's
very
the big
important
message,
to know
isn't
the
it?
difference. Sure.
All right, so I'm sharing again because we do have to do a little bit of a plug for Wildlife HQ because the 12th of April, which is in 2 days from now, 2026, is Marley's birthday. What number was it, Nikki?
It's her 18th birthday.
18th birthday. Okay, now I'll be there and Nikki will be there and many other people. You can get to meet Jared as well. I'm sure he'll be running around like a blue-ass fly as well. So you can meet me. I'll be talking about some of my books and telling stories about the animals in Borneo, focusing on sun bears, obviously, and you'll get to meet my puppet sidekicks as well. So please come along. It's half price for kids this day, isn't it, Nikki? So that's a really good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Marley will be having lots of presents to open. You can even, I think you can wrap a present for Marley, can't you?
Yeah, yeah. We have a present station for her. We'll have session times where you can make a present for her and throw them over. It's her one cheat day, so she gets to kind of splurge a little bit and get treated. But yeah, we'll have certain session times where you can make her a birthday present and we give it to her.
Yeah, sounds brilliant. I can't wait. So thank you so much, Nikki, for being here and sharing all your amazing knowledge. And I hope to see you on Sunday.
Thank you for having me.
See you guys.